Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to get into a story that, well, it really gripped the entire nation. The tragic death of Charlie Kirk. And then, almost unbelievably fast, the arrest of a suspect, Tyler Robinson.
Yeah, it was incredibly swift.
So, this deep dive, it's not just about the facts of that rapid investigation, although we'll certainly dig into those. It's also about some really profound questions this whole thing brings up for, all of us.
Questions about political talk, about violence in our society, things the authorities themselves brought up.
Exactly. So our mission here is to pull out the key pieces of information from all the sources surrounding this, give you a really solid understanding of what went down, and maybe more importantly, why it matters.
It definitely feels like a significant moment. And just the speed of the investigation itself, that's a story on its own, isn't it?
It absolutely is. How law enforcement, and we should stress, with help from the public, got a suspect so quickly.
Yeah, quite remarkable.
And that speed really kicked off with a very courageous tip. Tyler Robinson was actually in custody less than 36 hours after Charlie Kirk was shot. That was 12:03 p.m. on Wednesday.
And the arrest happened when?
By 10 p.m. local time on September 11th. So 33 hours, really, to be precise.
Wow.
The key moment came that evening, September 11th. A family member of Tyler Robinson contacted a friend.
Okay.
And that friend immediately called the Washington County Sheriff's Office with some information. Basically, the family member said Robinson had confessed, or at least, strongly implied he was involved.
That's huge. That kind of citizen information can just completely turn an investigation around.
Right. And that tip was immediately passed on, relayed straight to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and the FBI agents who were already there at Utah Valley University, UVU.
So a seamless handover of intelligence.
Yeah.
That's crucial for that kind of speed. Taking him into custody down in Washington County, Utah.
So beyond that first tip, how did they actually zero in on Tyler Robinson so fast? It seems like it was about piecing together trails, both digital and, physical.
Right. Investigators jumped straight onto UVU's surveillance video. They have a lot of it, apparently.
That makes sense on a campus.
Exactly. And it was key. They spotted Robinson arriving on campus, gray Dodge Challenger, about 8:29 in the morning on September 10th.
And they got a description.
Oh, yeah. Plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, black hat with a white logo, light-colored shoes. Pretty specific.
But then the clothing thing gets a bit strange, doesn't it?
It does. Because later surveillance shows him on campus in different clothes.
Okay.
And at one point, they actually saw him changing clothes up on a roof.
On a roof, wow.
Yeah. But then, when he was actually arrested down in Washington County, he was wearing clothes that matched those first pictures, the ones from when he arrived.
Huh. So changing and then changing back.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
It really shows you how closely investigators were watching, and maybe, the suspect trying to cover his tracks.
And then there's the digital side, the Discord messages. That sounds pretty chilling.
It really is. Investigators talked to Robinson's roommate.
Okay.
And the roommate had this Discord conversation. Discord, for anyone who doesn't know, it's like a chat platform popular online.
Right.
The roommate showed the messages from someone named Tyler with an emoji icon. Investigators photographed those messages right away.
And the content.
Well, this is where it gets very specific and, frankly, disturbing. Phrases like, need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point.
Wow.
Then later messages talk about leaving the rifle in a bush, visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and specifically saying he left the rifle wrapped in a towel.
So it's like he's documenting his actions almost.
In a way, yeah. A digital breadcrumb trail. He also mentioned engraving bullets.
Engraving bullet,
Yeah. Mentioned a scope for the rifle, said the rifle was unique, and crucially, connecting back to the surveillance.
Let me guess. Something about clothes.
Exactly. The messages from Tyler also said he had changed outfits.
So that ties the digital communication directly to the physical actions seen on video. And the weapon.
Precisely. A direct link. The person, the weapon, the sequence of events.
Which brings us to the weapon itself. Finding it must have been a huge step.
Absolutely. They found it based, it seems, on that information. A bolt-action rifle, wrapped up in a dark towel.
Where
In
exactly?
a grassy area, some trees there, north of Campus Drive Road, right on the edge of the UVU campus.
And they identified the rifle.
Yes. A Mauser Model 98. It's a .306 caliber bolt action, and it had a scope mounted on top.
Okay. But the inscriptions. That's the part that really stands out, isn't it? Engraved on the bullet casings found with the rifle.
That is probably the most striking piece of evidence made public so far.
Right.
It really makes you stop and think.
What did they say?
Okay, so one fired casing read, notice his bulges, what's this?
Okay, that's odd.
It is. Then 3 unfired casings had more direct and frankly provocative messages. One said, hey fascist, catching VVV. Another read, oh bella ciao, ciao ciao, which is a clear reference to Bella Ciao, the Italian anti-fascist partisan song.
Right, I know that song.
And the third unfired casing said, if you read this, you are gay, El Mao.
So quite a mix of things there. Political references, internet slang.
Exactly. And Governor Cox actually commented on that catch fascist line. He specifically said catch was meant like catch a ball, and he felt that phrase kind of speaks for itself.
So while authorities weren't officially stating a motive at that press conference,
No, they were very careful about that.
these inscriptions offer a pretty direct, if maybe slightly coded, look into the suspect's potential mindset, right?
It certainly points investigators in a particular direction. You'd have to assume it's loaded language.
Now, what about Robinson himself? Did we learn anything about his background?
A bit, yeah. Primarily from an interview with a family member.
Okay, what did they say?
They stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years.
More political. Okay, vague, but interesting.
Well, they gave a specific example, too. They talked about a dinner conversation before September 10th. Robinson apparently mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU.
Ah!
And during that dinner, family members apparently talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had.
So dislike for Kirk was discussed openly in the family.
It seems so. The family member even described Kirk, or Kirk's views perhaps, as full of hate and spreading hate.
That provides some context, definitely.
It does offer a glimpse into maybe an ideological shift, or at least growing animosity towards Kirk within Robinson's circle. It's also important context that he lived down in Washington County, Utah. He wasn't actually a UVU student.
Right. But again, authorities were cautious. No official word on motive or even Robinson's demeanor during the arrest at that point.
Correct. Standard procedure in a high-profile ongoing investigation. Stick to the known facts.
One thing that came through loud and clear from that press conference, though, was the cooperation. They kept calling it a masterclass in collaborative law enforcement.
Everyone seemed to emphasize that. Governor Cox, FBI Director Kash Patel, Sheriff Mike Smith, they all praised the seamless cooperation.
And it wasn't just words, was it? The speed itself speaks to that. FBI agents on scene.
Yeah.
How fast was it?
Just 16 minutes after the shooting. 16.
That's incredible.
It really is. And they immediately brought in heavy resources. Fixed-wing assets, airplanes, not just for people like agents and technicians, but also for hostage rescue teams.
Hostage rescue, even though it wasn't a hostage situation.
It suggests they were preparing for any eventuality, bringing in all available specialized units immediately. Plus, those planes were used to fly forensic evidence back and forth.
To Quanto.
To the FBI labs in Quantico, Virginia, yeah. And also to the ATF labs for firearms analysis. Just a massive, coordinated effort across states almost instantly.
And the Pablo played a big role, too, you mentioned.
Huge. The FBI moved fast on that front as well. Released photos of the suspect by 10 a.m. on the 11th.
Right.
Then they announced a $100,000 reward less than an hour later, 10:45 a.m.
That's substantial.
Definitely gets attention. And then they released that video of the suspect, the one from the night before, at 8 p.m. This direct appeal clearly worked.
How many tips did they say they got?
Initially, they mentioned 7,000 leads, which is already staggering.
Wow.
But by the morning of the press conference, that number had climbed to over 11,000 leads.
Yeah.
And they emphasized they were pursuing every single one.
11,000. Just processing that volume must have been immense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have the massive crime scene itself being processed rapidly by state, local, and federal teams working together. FBI Director Patel even walked through it himself.
Just underscores the scale and the unity. And they were clear the investigation wasn't over, right? Charging documents were expected soon?
Yeah, they anticipated filing those within 3 days of the press conference, so the investigation was definitely still active.
Okay, so the investigation itself, truly remarkable efficiency and cooperation. But Governor Cox, he really shifted the focus, didn't he? Beyond just the arrest.
He did. He gave this very powerful, quite emotional reflection on the broader meaning of this. He didn't mince words.
What terms did he use?
He called it a political assassination.
Yeah.
Said it was an attack on all of us, an attack on the American experiment, on our ideals.
Strong language.
Right.
Did he explain why he saw it that way?
Yes, he made a really clear distinction. He argued that political violence is different, fundamentally different,
How so?
because it directly attacks our freedom of expression, the bedrock principle in the founding documents. He said it makes it harder for people to share ideas, to speak freely.
So it chills speech, essentially, undermines debate.
That was his point, that it threatens the very way we're supposed to function as a civil society, how we handle disagreements. So it's not just a crime against one person, but against a fundamental principle.
He sounded personally affected, too.
Very much so. He admitted being as angry as I've ever been, as sad as I've ever been. But then he said something interesting.
What was that?
He said it was actually Charlie Kirk's own words, his philosophy, that kind of pulled him back from that anger.
Really? What aspects of Kirk's thinking did he focus on?
He highlighted several things. The core idea seemed to be Kirk's belief that talking, communication, is the antidote to violence, and that real strength is found in forgiveness.
Can you give some examples of the quotes he used?
Sure. He quoted Kirk saying, "When people stop talking, that's when you get violence." And also, "The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong."
Powerful ideas.
Yeah, and another one the governor shared is about navigating suffering. The only way out of a labyrinth of suffering is to forgive, welcome without judgment, love without condition, forgive without limit. And even a more pragmatic one, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much.
So a real emphasis on dialogue and forgiveness, even in the face of deep disagreement or hostility.
Exactly. And also on staying grounded. Cox quoted Kirk's advice for crazy times. It's important to stay grounded, turn off your phone, read scripture, spend time with friends, and remember, internet fury is not real life. It's going to be okay.
That resonates, especially now.
It does. And Cox connected this back to Kirk's idea that when you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to commit violence. He said we need to get back to a place of reasonable agreement where violence is not an option.
And then he made that very clear statement about words versus violence.
Unequivocally, words are not violence. Violence is violence. He was adamant about that and also stressed that only one person, the person in custody, is responsible for this crime.
He also pointed to Utah's response, didn't he? As a contrast, maybe?
He did. He specifically noted there was no rioting, no looting, no cars set on fire. Instead, he saw vigils and prayers and people coming together to share the humanity.
But he was still worried about the trend of political violence.
Deeply worried. He talked about the metastasis of political violence like a cancer spreading and the urgent need for an off-ramp.
An off-ramp. That's an interesting metaphor.
Yeah, way out of this escalating cycle. And he made this plea, really, urging every American, Republican, Democrat, liberal, progressive, conservative, MAGA, all of us to please, please, please follow what Charlie taught me.
Wow. That's quite a call for unity across all divides.
It was. And he also brought in this interesting distinction, quoting the author Yuval Levin, between optimism and hope.
Okay, how did that go?
He said Levin calls optimism is a vice. like just assuming things will get better. But hope, Cox explained, quoting Levin, is the virtue that sits between the vices of optimism and pessimism. The idea that good things are going to happen because we can make them so.
So hope requires action. It's not passive.
Exactly. It's about agency, about us making things better, not just expecting them to get better on their own.
The governor didn't pull any punches about how serious he thinks this moment is either, calling it a watershed.
Yeah, a watershed in American history. He even compared it to the late 1960s, the assassination of JFK. Those are incredibly serious comparisons for a state leader to make.
What does that comparison signal, do you think, for listeners trying to understand the political narrative here?
It signals a moment of profound crisis, I think, a potential turning point where the very foundations feel shaky. He pointed specifically to the fact this was displayed so graphically, on camera, in all of our hands and in all of our pockets.
The accessibility of the imagery.
Right, and he worried about the impact of that, saying, we are not wired as human beings biologically. Historically, we have not evolved in a way that we are capable of processing those types of violent imagery.
That constant exposure is doing something to us.
That seemed to be his deep concern, which led him to that really stark warning about social media.
What do you call it? Cancer.
Social media is a cancer on our society right now. Pretty blunt.
And his advice was equally direct.
Very direct, very actionable. Log off, turn off, touch grass, hug a family member, go out and do good in your community.
Basically, disconnect from the potential toxicity online and reconnect with the real world, with real people. Echoing Kirk's point about internet fury not being real life.
Precisely. A call to ground ourselves in tangible reality and community action.
And he left us with this choice, didn't he? A fundamental choice for where we go from here.
We framed it very clearly. Do we escalate or do we find an off-ramp? It's a question aimed not just at leaders, but at everyone.
A question about the path society takes now.
It really is. A profound challenge, as he put it, for every single one of us and for the country as a whole. Which way do we turn at this watershed moment?
So this deep dive, we've covered the incredibly fast, collaborative investigation into Charlie Kirk's death, the arrest of Tyler Robinson, the chilling evidence like the Discord messages and rifle inscriptions.
A truly remarkable piece of police work, by all accounts.
Absolutely. But we've also spent time wrestling with Governor Cox's reflections, these really deep thoughts on political violence, the impact of social media, and this urgent need he sees for an off-ramp from the hostility that seems to define so much public life right now.
And he left us with that really critical question, didn't he? A question that kind of hangs in the air after all this.
Which was?
Is this the end of a dark chapter in American history? Or is it possibly the beginning of an even darker one?
And that's really the provocative thought we want to leave you, the listener, with today. How do your choices, how you engage with ideas, especially the ones you really disagree with, how does that contribute or not to finding that off-ramp Governor Cox talked about? How do we collectively try to write the next chapter of what he called this watershed in American history with hope, that active kind of hope rather than just passive optimism? Some really vital questions to think about. We hope this deep dive has given you some valuable context for that reflection.